listening to the Bob Duco Show. We're going to wade through the news hour, news and politics. All right, so let's explore Donald Trump and whether or not Donald Trump has been considered a nasty, vile, evil person for the last several decades. Because remember, folks, and I want to make sure and stress this, okay, if these Hollywood celebrities and liberal pundits on TV and the media and the Democrats and everybody else, if they were saying today, you know, we really don't have a problem with Donald Trump the person. Okay, Donald Trump we think is a decent person. We just disagree with his conservative policies, and that's why we're so upset. If that's what they said right now, then that would be fine. Or if they somehow wanted to say, Donald Trump used to be a decent person, but it's only since he started running for president that he became a nasty, vile, racist, sexist, misogynist, whatever, then that would at least be intellectually honest on their part to try to make that argument. But they're not making that claim. They're saying Donald Trump, the person, is a vile human being. And they're saying, here's our proof of this. And then their proof is stuff that goes back decades. So my question is, if he was such a vile person for decades, how come they had this warm, cozy relationship with him for the last few decades, all the way up until he announced he was running for president? Then suddenly he became an ugly person? All right, first let's say, these liberal feminists, they are not offended by the various sleazy, sexist stuff that Donald Trump has said over the decades on shows like Howard Stern and things like that. They're not offended by those comments of Donald Trump. You want to know why? Because they're not offended by Bill Maher, and Bill Maher has said way more crude things than Donald Trump has said. Bill Maher, who regularly has referred to women that he doesn't agree with by the C word. And even Hillary Clinton. Did you know that Bill Maher actually referred to Hillary Clinton by the C word? Did you know that? Now, he wasn't doing this to attack her, just being a crude misogynist in his language. Here's what Bill Maher said, quote, "They fined CBS $1 million for Janet Jackson's nipple. Imagine what they could get for Hillary Clinton's C word." That was Bill Maher. Are liberals offended by him? Do they consider him a vile, sexist person? So they're not offended when Bill Maher says stuff like that. They're not offended by Howard Stern and the stuff that Howard Stern says. They're not offended by people like Larry Flynt and Hugh Hefner, who objectify women the way that they have for decades. They're not offended by Bill Clinton, who wasn't accused of merely saying crude, sexist things. Bill Clinton has been accused of forcibly raping Juanita Broderick, bloodying her lip in a forced rape, leaving her crying and screaming no. Sexually harassing Paula Jones, dropping his pants, exposing himself, and telling her, quote, what to do as she left the room and then sued him for this. Kathleen Willey groping her and grabbing her female parts in the Oval Office of the White House. Okay, these are the kind of charges that have been leveled against him. Are these feminist women angered by that, upset by that? Do they look at Bill Clinton with disgust because of that? No. How many times have you heard them speak out about the lyrics that rappers put together, consistently referring to women as the B word and hoes and stuff like that? No, you don't hear the anger from the liberal feminists regarding that, do you? Nope, these rappers are invited to perform at the Emmys and the Grammys and everything else, and a big slobbering love affair they all have with each other. Or the comedians. Do you know that there's some comedians out there that are extremely X-rated in their sexist, misogynist kind of things that they say about women, women's body parts and things like that? Comedians like Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, Tracy Morgan, Jim Gaffigan, Louis C.K., I could go on down the list. Look at some of the kind of over-the-top sexist things that they have said about women, and it's way worse than the kind of stuff that you can come up with Donald Trump. Yet they have no problem warming up to all these other people, Bill Maher, Howard Stern, Larry Flynt, Bill Clinton, various rappers, these comedians, no problem warming up to them. So, folks, these liberal feminists, it's not true. They are not offended by the various sexist things that Donald Trump has said over the decades. They're not offended by that, because while they were warming up to all these other people, they were warming up to Donald Trump too. So let's go through some examples of this. If Donald Trump was such an evil, vile person over the last several decades, how come he was invited to have cameos in various TV and movie productions, like the movie Home Alone 2, which he had a cameo, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith? Wait a minute, if he's such a racist, why is he having cameos in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Or Suddenly Susan, Sex and the City, The Drew Carey Show, Spin City with Michael J. Fox, The Nanny with Fran Drescher, The Little Rascals movie, Zoolander, and many more. He's hosted Saturday Night Live twice. He's been impersonated countless times, and never as a racist or sexist until he started running for president. But before Donald Trump started running for president, you had all kinds of Saturday Night Live people that would do impersonations of Donald Trump, but none of them, but from Daryl Hammond, from Phil Hartman, from various people over the decades, before Donald Trump ran for president, none of them ever portrayed him as the sexist, the racist, the misogynist, the Hitler-esque kind of evil person. No, it was all done in just simple, harmless fun back then. Now that he's run for president, Alec Baldwin's the one who does him, and they paint him as a horrible person. And by the way, Donald Trump hosted Saturday Night Live twice before he announced he was running for president, twice. And your host, Donald Trump. And out comes Donald Trump as everybody's cheering for him and applauding and laughing as he performs the skits. We had such a good time. Let's invite Donald Trump back. Wait a minute. This was all during the time that Donald Trump was supposed to be this horrible racist, this horrible sexist, this vile human being, right? It doesn't stop there. I've got more examples, and I'll share them with you next here on The Bob Duco Show.